In the upcoming panel discussion on winning in the digital-first era, how brands have refashioned their omni-channel strategies. Industry conglomerates will answer questions like, will offline expansion take a backseat? Is omni-channel strategy more important than ever in these uncertain times? Understanding omni-channel plans of e-commerce companies, etc. I once again would like to invite Mohammed Ujaley, Senior Assistant Editor at the Economic Times, to moderate this discussion. Over to you, Ujaley.
Hello and welcome to ET Retail E-Commerce Summit 2021. In this special panel discussion focused on winning in the digital first era, how brands have refashioned their omni-channel strategies. We are going to discuss the impact of pandemic on consumer experience and how brands are leveraging heterogeneous technology applications and solutions to ensure seamless experience across different platforms. To lead the discussion, today I'm joined by Mr. Dharmarajan K, Chief Product Officer from Tata CLiQ, Mr. Pawan Gadia, CEO, Retail and Online India, GCC and APAC region for Ferns and Petals, Mr. KT Prasad, Managing Director and RVP, India and SAARC at Zendesk, Mr. Vishal Kapil, Chief Technology Officer for leading fashion retailer, Mr. Sandeep Jabbal, VP Technology at Jubilant FoodWorks, Mr. Ankeet Bhat, Chief Strategy Officer for MapmyIndia. Gentlemen, thank you first of all for joining us today and giving us your time. Let me begin with Mr. Dharmarajan K. Sir, what we have observed during the pandemic that especially on a consumer experience point of view, that the key challenge posed by pandemic on consumer experience has been immense. I mean, especially the organization has been trying to meet the kind of empathy that you were able to offer during the physical interaction to the consumer while everything went online. In that light, I would like to understand how brands are leveraging digital to mitigate it. If you could share based on your experience, your organization experience, that during pandemic, as to how you leverage digital platform to ensure the same level of experience that you were offering in pre-pandemic era.
Thanks, Mr. Ujaley. Yeah, and thanks. A quick introduction to everyone. I am Dharmarajan. I represent Tata CLiQ, and I head product and design for Tata CLiQ. And thanks for that question. For us, fortunately, being a digital native organization, it is continuing whatever that we were continuing. So we saw a tremendous interest from the customer, as you sort of rightly pointed out. People moving, practically anything and everything was moving to online world. And for us, it was more being prepared for what was about to happen and be able to sort of cater to different consumer demands and needs, basing the changes that the pandemic was bringing about. We had to sort of go through a lot of changes, mostly on the operations front, which means how we as an organization were prepared to meet some of these consumer demands, being a pure online player, but still we had an office. People used to come to office and bring things together in terms of designing experiences for customer. For us, it was more on those lines, but we are fortunate to be some of those companies where pandemic had helped us grow faster, more than what we had planned earlier. Some of the things that we changed on the organization front to be able to cater these needs is to become purely digital, not just in terms of providing service to consumer, even internally to all the employees. So we were one of the early sort of people and players. Even before the lockdown, almost about 15-20 days before that, we started working from home. We ran 2 or 3 experiments on alternate days with about 50% of staff working from home. And even before the lockdown was announced, we were already working from home. it is in the anticipation to provide seamless services to consumers. We sort of anticipated what's going to happen, but we weren't sure how long will this continue. That was a different sort of ball game, but we knew that we should be prepared. That was the first thing. Then on the consumer front, it is about how you start listening to various signals that were being provided the moment the pandemic started. First and foremost is the pattern and the way people started buying, browsing, etc. completely changed. We as a horizontal platform, though we are a horizontal platform, we cater to lifestyle product, electronics, jewelry, fashion, and multiple products. People's interest towards certain categories started coming in. So they were looking for essential products, your hand wash. Those are the categories that we were not present. And we quickly realized that we were searching for some of these items on the platform. We quickly shifted gears, created a small network of team to be able to deliver these categories also to consumers. Second big change also on the pattern, people who were completely averse to online and people who were still testing waters on the online, which means they have bought products, but they have done cash on delivery. They have not used some of those payment instruments. That I believe was the biggest shift that happened. With COVID, fintech penetration in the country, not just in the country, globally, have seen a tremendous change and the resultant impact of it. For example, we moved to everybody moved to 100% prepaid only as a business model for like 4 or 5 months. In that, customers also started adopting some of these online channels far more than they did ever in the past. Penetration of UPI went through, monthly it was growing at 10%. We saw the numbers doubling in less than 6-7 months. We are currently looking at about close to 2 to 2.5 billion transactions a month. All of this is on the back of pandemic forcing consumer to adopt some of these changes. Essentially, what has happened is things we all knew that's going to happen in next 5-6 years. Because of pandemic, it got crunched in, and the whole technology advancement and brought the world together, and digital progress happened in 6 to 8 months. What would have in a due course would have happened in 6 years, happened in 6 months. That's how we see it.
Yes.
That's how we are trying to plan.
I'll come back to you again. Okay, now I'm moving to Mr. Pawan. Mr. Pawan Gadia, what Mr. Dharmarajan was saying that during the pandemic, what really has happened, that something which digitally initially you could have thought of that, okay, I'll be able to deliver in 1.5 years or 1 year. Those things were being done in 2 months, 3 months, and within 6 months' time. What I would like to ask you on consumer experience part, especially because matching the empathy that you are able to deliver to a customer while you are dealing with them in your physical environment and whatever the channel you had, and a channel which is only digital, whether it is coming from IVR, coming website, coming mobile application, anything. So how do you balance, how do you match the empathy which a consumer is expecting from a brand?
Very good question here, Ujaley. Having said that, Ferns and Petals is a purely gifting brand. We have 400 retail outlets through which we ensure that our products are delivered. And we are mostly into cakes, flowers, plants, gifting products. Now, in the lockdown, we realized that the first biggest challenge was the serviceability issue. So a lockdown being imposed across the country or for in different states or in capital brought the entire deliveries at a standstill. Or for that matter, the availability of the products and the supply chain was again a challenge into they being available anywhere and everywhere in the country. So these two were the primary activities because of which the entire thing was getting disrupted. So here we have a technology wherein we are able to restrict both the things here. In terms of serviceability, we were able to restrict instantly. So the SLAs and the SOPs kicked in, and we ensured that there is minimum disruption for a customer here. And similarly, in case of the distribution part of it. Having said this, we also have customer data lakes. We have a customer data platform wherein we capture the clickstream data of customers for transactional as well as whatever is happening on the site. And because of which we were able to address and marry that along with the call center software, wherein we were able to speak and give the customer a real-time update as to what is going on with his order. So all this helped us in terms of mitigating and ensuring that we are empathic towards the customer's needs and orders which he has placed on us.
Right. I'll come back to you again. I'll move to Mr. Prasad. Mr. Prasad, what we also realized that to give the level of experience that you want to give to a consumer, you need to have a greater visibility across your IT infrastructure, your supply chain. And if you have an integrated platform, what we analyzed during the pandemic, those organizations were able to mitigate those things quite well on the go. Would you like to share your experience, especially on leveraging digital for ensuring equal level of consumer experience, whether the consumer was coming in pre-pandemic era or in pandemic or in post-pandemic?
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for the question. I would start by saying digital has been as part of overall customer ecosystem, the touch point earlier pre-pandemic. Some of the businesses were purely offline. They had also online presence, which is digital presence. I think what pandemic has really driven, it brought in a world called digital first world. So your first touch point, perhaps like Dharma said, or maybe what Pawan said, it's all digital first. And then perhaps if it's a non-essential services, consumers, even till today, even wave 2 is done, and I think probably wave 3 should not be there, touch wood, they still concerned to use the offline retailing, right? Considering that, I think the most businesses embarked the digital first journey. And in the digital first journey, I think the way consumers really behave, it's what really determines your infrastructure or your CX infrastructure or maybe a technology infrastructure. Now, these customers, especially in the pandemic time, I think about close to 97% of customers in India, consumers in India, have at least tried one new digital channel. And within the digital channels that they've actually tried, a new one, WhatsApp is on the top. Now, if you look at geographic of India and digital literacy and digital penetration in India, it varies from tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 cities. So what really happened? Most of the businesses really need to think about, okay, where would my consumers would come and what would be their preferred channel of communication? Now, what really triggered and transpired is actually the Omni channel really came into play. And we have seen contact centers struggling to move remote because, it was supposed to be doing it in contact center, people sitting one next to each other. If one of the new agent have an issue, they can usually tap into, a colleague next to and say, this is what customer is asking. How would I get this answer to a customer? Now, those things have completely changed. Now you got to tap into your digital technology to even talk to a colleague. So if you look at the Omni channel, if contact center was difficult to move, the customers are moving towards more of messaging channels like chat or WhatsApp, or even, plethora of other technologies, including AI powered, bots, which will provide scale and provide, a first touch response to customer, including self-service. Now, if you look at all of this, the things have not changed pre and post COVID. If you're a digital native businesses like Dharma talked about, Tata CLiQ, or most of the businesses today already have Omni channel. But I think what really changed, most customers are embarking into messaging channel because that gives a comfort. This is the channel where they talk to a family and friend, and obviously they feel more comfortable, more reliance. And that's what made your digital infrastructure to be embedded. Second, I think Pawan talked about it. It's not about customer communication channel coming together. Did you really integrate your core business products back into your customer communication channels? So that when customer calls, you probably know the product that they like and what they bought in the previously. You have the order information. You also have logistic information integrated. So customers might be calling for, or maybe reaching out saying that, where is my order? Or probably the order that delivered, which stated is delivered but not delivered. Some of the most common things that we have seen it, or want to report an issue. So basically, bringing in customer 360 is become very key. Second, very importantly, Omni channel is a very key for survival through the pandemic and also in the future.
Right, absolutely, absolutely. I'll come back to you again. I'll go to Mr. Vishal. Mr. Vishal, two things Mr. Prasad raised, very important. One, the visibility, that you need to have a 360-degree understanding supported by integrated technology platform. Second, the choice of a consumer, what actually he is preferring to come to me and talk to me. So what we have noticed, especially with COVID app, that initially the response was lackluster, but the day it says that the booking can be done on WhatsApp, you can receive your certificate on WhatsApp. So that ratio has shoot like anything. I mean, number of people who have registered, and that something that also the West Bengal government did possibly around 5 6 months back. So what we are learning from those understanding that within omni channel, there has to be some level of prioritization. If a pandemic like COVID-19 requires people to come to you via mobile phone, so you as an organization need to ensure that your everything that you do should be mobile friendly. But being a digital first is easier said than done, because you need to have your data center in place, your networking, everything. And there are a lot of heterogeneity within data center, a lot of applications are there. So as a technology leader, how do you balance both the front, the consumer front as well as your internal front, which is for your own employee, how easy they are able to handle, how easy they are able to mitigate those technology challenges?
So very good. Thanks for asking this question. Um, I think it's easier said than done. Uh, you know, and I'll take an example of Pawan. He is dealing into a category where you need freshness. If I don't get flowers as a gift from someone which are fresh, more than the intent of somebody sending me a gift, the look of the flower, if it's stale, that will piss me off, right? So if the flowers are fresh, then the respect for the company who is delivering it and the someone who's sending it will definitely goes higher, and the satisfaction levels goes higher. Okay, so what am I trying to say? To your question, what is most important thing for any retailer or any business is to stay relevant. So staying relevant is a very important factor, and staying profitable is also another factor. Okay, so you can stretch the relevance to a customer and try to do, you can expand the product into all directions. We have a, a product architect or a product leader also in this panel, so maybe he will share his pains or the achievements. But simplifying and making your offering relevant for customers is a very big question, and how to do it and how to prioritize that to retain a customer and to bring the growth element into the business is another element of it. Okay, whether it's WhatsApp or whatever. So the in the whole pandemic, whether you are doing whether it's a forward path journey or a return path journey, if you're trying to simplify it, if you're trying to make it frictionless, okay, that makes customers very happy. So when you place, very simple thing, when you place an order through a digital payment method, you collect, as a retailer or as a brand, you collect money. But when you return the order, do you return the money there and then, or you say, no, first I will take your order, bring it to my source of origin, then I will quality check you, I doubt you whether you have given me the same product in a right way and shape, and then I will then trigger the refund for you, so so if you have, so while you are collecting money in advance, while somebody is returning at their doorstep, somebody's come to collect the goods at the return, why don't you give money back to the customer? Okay, there and then. Is there a method? So I'm saying there are many things which brands have to do, okay, to remove various frictions in the overall chain. communication is one part. Okay, there is a lot of things, because as in fashion, there are, if you talk to any fashion retailer, and if you go to Italy, and we all talk about fashion streets and things like that over there, there is a lot of product discovery that happens in the physical retail stores, right? And you understand the style and all those kind of things in the real world, and how to do the make customers have this product discovery simplified for them. Because when you have a smaller range, it's much easier. But when you have like 7,000 styles and more than 100,000 SKUs, it becomes very difficult. So how do you simplify the product discovery? So there are many things in this overall architecture and technology. We can go on and on talking about it, but the point is very simple. How do you stay relevant? How do you remove the frictions in the overall chain, forward and return, and even the product discovery part when somebody is really tempted to buy from you? Okay, because that's where the higher NPS and lower NPS gets decided. That's my point of view.
Right. Absolutely. I think there are some work happening, especially on product discovery part, wherein there is a bigger role of technology, especially AR and VR. In auto industry, and I think in food and retail, and I hope that as we move forward and when we are able to stabilize those things and create a kind of a standardized product, possibly there will be larger implication that might not be able to completely replace the physical experience and that a store is able to offer, obviously. So now I'll move to Mr. Sandeep Jabbal. Mr. Sandeep, would you like to share your view as to how you look at the consumer experience part and use of digital platform to ensure that you are able to meet the kind of experience that you initially plan to offer to the consumers?
I'll not repeat what others have already spoken about, but I would like to just mention one basic point, which could be, pivot of all the entire discussion. The consumer experience should be comprehensive. So, in a way, if a consumer is in a retail store or a restaurant, what all he or she can do should be, available in a digital method. For example, you ordered a food, you paid money, you wanted to pay by any card, you want to pay by cash, all the modes are available. You get your refund, you want to have any information about the product, you can just ask the manager there and then. So if you want to have what are the ingredients of this product or what is the material of this apparel, you want to compare a couple of things, you want to have pricing, you want to complain about something, you lost your receipt, you want a duplicate receipt. These are small interventions we don't realize, and these are addressed in a fraction of a second because the people around you know you. The people around you in the store have all the answers. They're trained for this and they're available to serve you. But once you are on a digital platform, all these interventions are going to come from A, the knowledge, B, the process, and C, the technology, which makes it easy for consumer to access this information. If some part of this experience is broken, for example, I haven't received because in pandemic we were doing digital receipts, so I haven't got my receipt through SMS. So can I re-trigger it from the app, or can I see the receipt within the app, or I want to make a complaint for a refund? Now in the store I can just say that this particular item is not good. Let's say we're talking about a food item. So on the manager's discretion, there is certain points that could be credited to the customer's wallet. Can that be done on app? Yes, it can be done through app. What it will take the consumer history, maybe some AI-able logics. Customer is not trying to game the system and things around that. So a lot of technology interventions would be required to give a complete experience. Similarly, you want to give a complaint, and how the complaint, if not, can be addressed by a bot, is assigned to an agent. There is an SLA on top of it. And these things are written then because the store manager has a lot of authority in most of the cases and in most of the categories, I would say. Problems are resolved there and then. That's the experience customer wants on the bot, and even better. because you're not interacting with somebody, so you can't wait for some circle to go on and on to fetch the right response for you. So if that is enabled, your experience is comprehensive. Like I said, payments. So doing just a wallet is not enough. Today there are different kind of wallets, pay later. All those things should be available because consumer is spoiled for choice. Amazons of the world are spoiling them, and that is driving the consumer experience. And consumer would expect no less when he or she comes to your platform. So your experience has to be comprehensive, and that is where technology will play a role. I think we've caught up a lot during the pandemic. It has accelerated, but I think it will stay because consumers are now, let me use the term, spoiled for digital experience, and this will only grow.
Right, absolutely. I completely agree with you that digital is here to stay. Even in the post-pandemic world, the companies have started prioritizing those things. Now I'll go to Mr. Ankit Bhat. Mr. Bhat, one thing Mr. Vishal earlier mentioned and Mr. Jabbal also mentioned around the product discovery. We also have a concept called your retail store discovery of anything, right? Which is really important because that gives you the visibility as to what you are buying, where you are buying, how you are buying. In that light, and that becomes an integral part of overall experience for any customer. Uh, would you like to share your views as to how you look at the overall concept of consumer experience and some of the challenge your organization would have faced during the pandemic and how did you mitigate it?
Thank you, Mr. Ujaley, for that question. Yes, very interesting, wide range of thoughts. And when you mention discovery as a core, one of the things that, so coming from a location mapping ecosystem, one of the core things that became more prominent in the pandemic was the concept of hyperlocal. I think all of us are familiar with that concept. What that means is that everything that's around you is what you want to transact with, is where you want to be, is where you want to go. So we've also seen it very interestingly through our own usage of our app usage and many other parameters and sensors where people literally started moving not beyond a kilometer of their little household. So people started going more, consuming daily daily things that you use on a daily basis from places that are very close by. And there was generally a spike in that usage also, and that purchase from a lot of brands. So we saw that pattern. We also saw brands asking us these questions: that hey, where are consumers moving? Where should we expand if we need to expand when things open up? So very interestingly, that discovery started becoming hyperlocal. That thinking of what is around me is where I want to probably go. I would not go too far away. That became very, very strong and pronounced. And because of that, what happened was many brands. Coming from MapmyIndia, which is the largest location mapping, geo-enriched data repository and technology company in India, we had so many brands come to us and ask us, hey, because a map literally represents the world around us, right? Like imagine all of that digital information tagged with so many other things, like what is the traffic, what is the people movement, how many, what kind of roads are there, what kind of buildings exist, what is the proxy for my competition that exists there. All of this information, brands started asking us that if consumers are exhibiting hyperlocal behavior in one place, where do we also go? Where else do we go in India? So we got those questions from enormous number of brands, basically intelligence. And that is, so that their potential consumers can discover things. So we essentially got a spike in our business because we are enabling this intelligence and these tools for businesses. And that's essentially what happened during the pandemic. It's continuing as things are opening up, that people are asking us this question that where is the next hyperlocal phenomena for my TG, right? My TG is maybe upper class luxury, or it is kind of mass market. It is where is the competition present, and where is that next hyperlocal segment in India where they're seeing these kind of changes. So that was very interesting from our perspective that we saw. And also all of these habits, what we've realized, consumer or business, are unlearnable. You cannot change it. It is there to stay. Just like we as consumers have experienced all of this, that's going to continue. So that's what we very interestingly saw during the pandemic and continuing.
Right. Oh, this is really interesting that technology and maybe a tracking technology or something is able to solve the kind of question that a business would have: where to start, how to start, whether I'll find the right set of consumer there, what is my competition, possibly somebody would have hired a consultant like KPMG and PwC to do that. But today, technology, a platform, a solution, integrated one from MapmyIndia, from any company like yours, could provide those. Those are amazing stuff. That brings me to my second question, which is offline expansion. What there is, I believe now, unanimity that retail stores are important, but we also realize that running a retail store is a costly affair, right, compared to your online business. And during the pandemic, since people were either working or staying at home, and most of the people were actually ordering from online, so the focus on the retail actually went down. But retail actually give you lot of different kind of leeway in terms of your brand awareness, if it is at airport or something, right? So lot of rationalization is happening within different brands as to how many retail store I should have, where I should have. For example, banks are rationalizing how many ATMs they should have actually, right? I'll go to Mr. Dharmarajan. Mr. Rajan, if you could share your views. I mean, what kind of rationalization do you see on expansion in view of the pandemic from a retail perspective, from a physical store perspective?
If you ideally ask me, some of my esteemed colleagues would have a better context with deeper experience on running offline businesses, whether it is Ferns and Petals or some of the other fashion retailers. We can share our context and our thought on this. And also, this is stemming from some of the other questions that you asked around deeper understanding of customers itself. We have, with the pandemic, I've started focusing more and more on a deeper understanding of customers, and the metrics have also started changing. In terms of connect with customers, we used to measure it using only metrics like NPS, etc. Now, what is happening, what we are realizing is the voice of one detractor is much, much larger and wider than it was ever in the past. So, and the whole question was, would you recommend your brand to friends and families? But with the social world, when you posted it, not just friends and family, it is like thousands and thousands of people out there who get to read and sort of react, whether it is good or bad. This led to a couple of changes. I'll come to your a point in terms of how does this tie into our expansion plan and how do you decide online and offline. This what we have done is we have now changed our metric into highly input focused. So what we call it as perfect order and perfect return. Some of this was answered by a few others, and this is how we look at it. So perfect order for us is when a customer places an order, we ship the product as per the promised timeline. We deliver the product as per timeline. Customer doesn't cancel the order. Delivery doesn't return the order back to us. There is no customer initiated return for that item, and customer did not have to call the call center for any query in the entire order. And that is what we qualify as a perfect order. And this tells us whether we know that there is a phenomenally high correlation with NPS. So it is almost like a 30 points higher. All people who have gone through a perfect order experience have a 30 points higher NPS vis-a-vis who have not gone through that. And here the data point is 100% of all customers, wherein NPS is only a certain percentage who respond to the survey. So what this also tells us is how we are doing, where we are doing good, bad, ugly. And this is for orders. And we're taking a step back, going into pre-buying pattern and being a strong online player. We have the information about customers and customer experience, not just after placing the order, even before. What are they browsing, which products are they browsing, and where are they browsing it from? which location are they interested in. And this information is available through the PIN code that they enter on the platform. All of this helps us in understanding where the demand is. Then the second point that comes in, again, it comes in with the data points. Like, for example, I can tell you, if somebody is buying a leather handbag in excess of 10,000 rupees as the price point, they take at least 3 visits to do it. And it is over a certain period of time. Anything, it can be between 3 days to 15 days. What it also tells us is these are some of those categories where physically knowing the information about product is a lot more, and also they would want to understand how this product works. There are categories like appliances, etc., where it's like absolutely seamless. People go and see the product offline and then come buy online, or they do research online, understand about the product through various sites who provide information about what is best, etc. This also tells us where we need to be present as a platform. So as an offline. So for us, when we see all of these data points and understand where the demand is, how consumers are buying and looking at some of these products, we are trying to continuously enhancing our reach being an e-commerce player. So before the start of pandemic, we were serving to about 13,000 pin codes. Today, we serve about 25,000 pin codes. Practically every single village, town in excess of 5,000 population is being served. And this is going to continue further. And there are different ways of serving. So I'm just telling how many customers we are in a position to touch. Then we start, we have just started, we anyway monitor this for top metro, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. What percentage of products I can deliver within 4 days of consumer placing an order. And that is the next level. What Ankeet also was touched about is about your ability to deliver faster and trying to go the hyper local route. You are building your supply chain and capabilities around making these products available for consumer from the nearest location, so that you consistently keep reducing the time to fulfill the order from the time they place an order. And this will require, for us, the expansion means how do I build warehouses closer to customers? How do I bring in seller partners and brand partners across the country? How do I get every single retail chain outlet? Like we have Nike, Adidas, Reebok on our platform. How do we ensure that every single company-owned and franchisee outlet available to us, so that I can deliver the products from these stores directly to customers, more pin codes and faster delivery? For us, the expansion is getting as many brand partners, as many sellers or distributors who are directly linked, and getting closer and closer to consumers. So that's how we see it.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'll come back to you again. I'll go to Mr. Pawan Gadia. Mr. Pawan, would you like to share your views on the rationalization that you are seeing into, being a digital versus the requirement of having a retail presence or physical presence across the country?
Sure. So out of the 400 outlets which we have for flowers and cakes across 125 cities, we will continue to want to aggressively grow our retail stores. And for this year, the plan is around 100 plus stores across the country, concentrating more on tier 2 and a couple of metros. We feel that now, as everybody knows here in this forum, that retail is becoming a challenge in terms of viability. So how are we planning to mitigate this is, one, let us have more flexible and negotiated rental agreement which constitute a larger part of the cost with the landlords, wherein we talk about a force majeure in case there is a lockdown, you'll provide us the relief and so on. Secondly is that we realize that the more offering which we are able to do in our stores related to gifting augments the top line, and accordingly everything else in terms of cost and the profitability falls in place. Say for example, all our flower stores are now carry a refrigerated fridge wherein we also have our cake offerings. So anybody who wants to pick up flowers or order flowers instantly can maybe add a cake along with it. or for that matter, 8 to 10 different varieties of plants, followed by balloon, greeting cards, etc. So everything wherein you expand the category, the way Marks and Spencer has it, everything from not just apparel, but from personal care and so on. So we are, that's the second way of how we're wanting to expand it. And third is with the retail store expansion, whenever a customer is choosing a particular pin code, and as Dharmarajan said that key hyper local, and as Ankeet mentioned here, that this is going to be the key here. So the more and more stores become closer to the customer, the viability and the stores increase, and it has a snowball effect wherein the customers placing an order, they find it to be getting delivered faster, and the range is of course much wider than what it is before. So that's our plan to continue expanding retail much more faster than before.
Right. Mr. Prasad, what Mr. Pawan is saying that ultimately the gist of what he has said that your online presence as well as your physical presence both are important, and both of them has to complement each other, right? What earlier Mr. Dharmarajan was saying about having a warehouse closer to the customers, right? That means you need to have a very integrated relationship between your technology related platform, which is your physical store, and your online store with your physical store, right? So from a tech perspective, as to how a technology leader should be enabling a flawless coordination between these two different platforms. Their requirements are different. The kind of money you are spending on both these platforms could be different, right? So how do you do that?
Thank you. I think there's a wide range of ideas and thoughts that came in. So I just wanted to probably, pick those points. I think we talked about offline retailing. In the current world, we call that as digital first, virtual everyday. Virtual everyday means, your customer journey could start from digital, but eventually probably would have an endpoint in F&B case, could be a physical store visit. Maybe you want to pick those flowers or cake by looking at them. But I think remember what customer really wanted. Customer, I think it's Sandeep said it's spoiled for choices. I would say customer today wanted convenience. Customer wanted to make sure that you are a trustworthy brand that I can deal with it, right? And third, very importantly, I think we talked about friction point. Vishal talked about friction points. Where does the friction points do come with the customer? I think we talked about some of that, which Sandeep also talked about. In the store mechanism, I could go. There is somebody who's there who could actually look at that and actually solve the customer problem then and there in terms of refund. But today, if you look at it, I will talk about example of Uber. Just give you example of Uber or even some of the large e-com retail brands available in the market. You were including food techs. So when I'm talking about if you order a food on one of the aggregators, the refunds are instant. The refunds are being created and given it to you by artificially intelligence powered bots. You're not even talking humans. I think if humans would require for exceptions, but tech should be able to solve a lot of this for you, right? And by giving instant refund, I think we talked about refunds as a very big thing, big topic here. By refunding to customer instantly, remember you're earning the trust of a customer. That, if I have an issue, I come to you, you understand and empathize with my problem first of all, and you recognize there is an issue, and then you refund my money. So by doing the transaction, you're enabling and establishing a trust. By customer trust, what will you drive is driving loyalty. I think we talked about that. Actually, if the customer is loyal to you, they will come back and do business more and more with you. And if the loyalty increases, it will go into evangelism. Now the same customer will go bring in more family and friends to do business with you. It doesn't matter whether it's online and offline. It's the same thing. If I come to a, let's say offline retail store and I find what I need, and probably I have an issue with that, maybe post-purchase, I come back and return the product, and you tell me that my return policy is maybe 8 hours from the time you buy. Do you think that customer would have a friction point at that point of time, even though you put a policy in front of there? They will think twice to come back to the same brand again. I think irrespective whether it's offline and online, what we have seen Customer convenience becomes very key. Second, for the brands, it is important to provide and earn the trust of the customer. And by earning the trust of the customer is by removing the friction points across the customer experience journey, irrespective of whether online or offline. But third, which is I think what you're talking about, I think there is a coexistence. But customer experiences have been reimagined post-COVID. That means all those offline retail stores need to have absolutely need to have a digital presence. I think there is a need for even digitally native companies. We talk about large furniture companies now have experience centers available in the metros where customers can actually touch and feel. Large jewelry stores you're talking about, very fashion jewelry now available as experience centers. I think there is a coexistence of all of this. But one thing that remember, the same customer would have tried looking at your products online and would have come to the store and say, now I want to touch and feel it. Now, do you recognize that customer is a VIP customer, a repeatable customer, or a customer who had a previous grief with you? If you can have the entire customer view, irrespective of whether that you're doing offline or online, I think it'll help a better conversation, and a better conversation will help you to build a better relationship, and customers will have a better experience, and they will come back and become more loyal and more evangelized to your brand.
Right, absolutely. Mr. Vishal, would you like to add your views on what kind of rationalization do you see, especially on the retail expansion plan within the industry?
My views are perfectly in line with what Pawan mentioned earlier. I wish there was a mall owner in this panel also. There is hardly any space. Quality real estate in the country is very difficult to get. Very, very high demand. So if Pawan is saying that he is able to negotiate good deals and all that due to acts of God or whatever it is, the quality real estate owners they have multiple takers in the country. But in tier 2 and many other places, yes, there are deals like this happening, whether it's a commercial real estate or whether it's for retail real estate, it's happening. But the overall, if you ask any retailer, is there any pause? Everyone will, and just ask them or maybe look at their balance sheet, maybe a few months from now, this year's balance sheet, you will see there is a large capex outlay planned for the store fitment or store rebuilding and remodeling and all that. Plus, as Pawan mentioned, because pandemic happened and the digital revenues have grown, one very interesting thing that has happened is earlier BOSS was as terminology was not known to people. So buy online, ship from store has become so common now. And your BOPIS model, buy online and pick in store, and all these kind of return at store and things like that, buy online and return to any store, is become so common. So store has a huge role to play now, and it's a very good thing for the country and everywhere in the world, because by doing this we are removing frictions, and by removing frictions we are bringing more and more customers online and offline to online and all these things. And while this is happening, the omni-channel journeys are getting streamlined. Okay, because to solve one problem, you find a solution, like buy online, pick in store. So you have a solution now, you can do a pick in store. But after you launch a solution, that solution itself will come with some problems. Okay, so what happens then is, what I have seen, okay, fine, you build a business case, you solve a problem, and then you say, okay, now we have a physical retail. So there is all kind of, in short, there are all kind of models. This wave is supporting the case for business, for the more and more retail stores, the relevant places. But as Dharma mentioned, which location you need to open a store, what kind of assortment we need to have, and things like that, it is also determined a lot by a lot of first party data that you are collecting now. Because many brands, they have opened their own e-commerce stores. I think there is a upside of more than what somebody told me that 90% more brands opened their online stores in last 18 months. And because of that, there is a lot of first party data that is coming. And that data is helping the internal real estate teams to decide better. And those real estate teams, people like Pawan who are at a CEO and MD level, they are questioning. And now teams are also questioning themselves because that data is internally democratized. That, why do we open this store? This is our order density from this pin code and so and so. And this is the kind of range people are buying. So why do we have this kind of a range? So having a retail store is a win-win for not just retail as a function, but overall as an organization. And
right,
that's my take on this.
Right. No, very interesting thing you said that having the first party data is really important. And I think earlier it was a huge challenge, and there were a lot of organizations not actually putting enough energy on analyzing the first party or secondary or whatever data they could have. But today's they are able to do that. Now I'll move to Mr. Sandeep. Mr. Sandeep, would you like to share based on your experience? I mean, how do you look at this concept of uh, offline retail stores supporting the digital one and digital supporting the offline, and the kind of balance that you are observing within the industry that is happening in view of the COVID-19 pandemic?
Sure. Overall, I would like to believe that it may be different from a category to category. For example, in case of apparel, you may still be able to fulfill from a, let's say, central warehouse, but in case of food and beverages, you will still need a physical presence in that particular catchment area, particularly because it is time sensitive. In our case, let's say 30 minutes, but in most of the cases, you would like your food to be with you not more than 1 hour from the time you place your order. Faster the better. So yes, I mean, as a strategy, stores will continue to expand, and like Vishal said, still, despite pandemic and despite closures, still the quality real estate in country is at premium and is very less. Uh, and that has been the case for many years now. That I've seen for last maybe 10 plus years. So the only thing I would like to add here is that the formats may change for some consumer goods company like food and beverages. We may have maybe less space for dining. We may choose certain high density locations where delivery is more economical. So that tilt definitely will come, and that's what the industry is experimenting with a different format. Of course, when you talk about food courts, you talk about corporate parks, you will have large dining spaces. But if you are located near, let's say, a large apartment society with 30 plus towers, there you would like to dedicate more space to, less space to dine in, and more riders and more capacity for serving your delivery orders in again certain time constraints. So that shift definitely will happen, and it may mean faster payback periods for investment in the capex, because a smaller dining area means less retail rentals, less maintenance. So that shift definitely will happen, but still it will vary from category to category. Certain categories may still continue with the large big box formats because that's what the consumer will ultimately want to return to post pandemic. And certain categories, which grocery is one where consumer may like to. I mean, nobody goes to and check grocery. You know what you want to buy, and so those categories I would believe will turn into maybe dark kitchens, or maybe non-retail format where consumer interaction area may not be there, just delivery and takeaway kind of things will be there. So that's what my take on the format.
Right. Absolutely. Mr. Bhat, would you like to share your views? Earlier, you were mentioning about having greater visibility, especially in the physical areas, whether you should be opening or not, why you should be opening, all those important key questions. Based on your experience in terms of the feedback that you are getting from the market, from your customers, what kind of, do you see some rationalization happening, or is it that for most of the organization, the physical store is important and they want to continue? What kind of feedback you are getting?
So Thanks for that. And I think it's a very interesting time because it's almost like the pure online ones recognize the need for the physical, and the pure physical ones recognize the need for the online. It is almost a hodgepodge, but it is an interesting mix. But that and seeing that change in behavior, because our technologies are kind of embedded in all of these places, so we see it. But it's a very interesting mix that's happening, and it is definitely needed because the behavior is different in different parts of the country, and we live in probably the largest country, the second largest country in the world. So let's keep that as the background also. And that vastness causes this, I would say, online offline mix. Now, from our experience, what we've seen is in that segment of society where we have these habits that we can't unlearn, like the unlearnable habits of I've placed in, like, for example, any of us, if he placed an order on something and someone said, okay, I'll come by 6 p.m. Even if he comes 5 minutes late, there is this anxiety that is inside you, like, okay, where is he? So you're used to this thing experience that I want to see him on a map. Kahan hai, kab aa raha hai? Very simple, and that is typically in tier 1 India. And I think that unlearnable habit is slowly as consumers demand it, it will come. But it anywhere, Bombay, Delhi, Bangalore, you will think that it is subpar service if someone does not tell you that when are they exactly coming, right? So I think that specific need of the consumer is unlearnable. And for us as businesses also, there are these unlearnable habits that we've seen where businesses are like, I do not want to rely on approximate data. I do not want to rely on sample data. Gone are the days of sampling, right? Like there were days 20 years back where all CPG brands were sampling stuff, where they would ask consumers and they would generalize that. They want real data, and that exponential increase in real information and of physical presence or of their own, a lot of the panelists here mentioned their own information, merge that with what is real, and then take a decision. So that's also unlearnable. No business wants to ever go back to sampling something. So I think that's a very integral thing that we've seen. But that behavior will kind of trickle down, because we've seen that in cases of where there are items that need to be delivered within 30 minutes, 1 hour, because they're perishables. I'm sure a lot of the panelists here know this, but these brands literally plan the entire delivery schedule the day before, and there is this gigantic algorithm running on multiple servers deciding the schedule. You can take an example of Amazon or something, but whenever they're trying to do as you do quicker deliveries, the server farm that you're running the day before gigantically increases. So literally the orders might be shut, let's say at 7 p.m. of the day. All of those orders are then crunched through an algorithm, and then the beat plan is made for the next day. And that has many things. That has many parameters. One of the most important things we've learned is they want to know the traffic. They want to know if the time to the consumer is 5 minutes or 10 minutes at 9 a.m. versus 9 p.m. All of that they want to know. And taking all of that, you would make a decision that, okay, this is the route or the beat to be followed. So very interesting phenomena. And we see all of that trickle down to more parts of India as this becomes very ubiquitous.
Absolutely.
No, just one thought to add, Ujaley. The largest retailer that we talked about it doesn't have a physical offline store. It's a food for thought. The scale is available. There is a huge business to cater. But I think pivoting, if you look at the largest retailers, largest e-coms, including the ones that are in this panel, all pivot with CX. I think if you differentiate yourself and understand how the customer would behave, how would you work, that there is a CX journeys, and using technology, you can solve probably not having offline retail stores. A contrasting view, just so that food for thought.
Okay. Now, this is really important and quite interesting, given the fact that the digital people in the digital space looking at the retail looking at the digital, and that is quite normal across industry. Even with us as a journalist, actually, if we are a print journalist, we look at TV. The TV wala look at the print if we could have a byline there. So this is quite normal. And if you look at, for example, smartphones, the smartphone which began their journey only on either on Flipkart or Amazon, and after a certain time they decided to open their retail store also Xiaomi is one of the example. So they complement each other. And in a market like India, which is very diverse and heterogeneous, I think all of these have some places and they will support each other. Now I'm in the fake end of our panel discussion. So I'll request all of you to have short answers. And this is about the return on investment. So whatever technology you are adopting, whatever marketing strategy you are pushing into the market, whether it is social media, print, wherever, it's all a lot of money going into the market, right? So what really has happened that return on investment is really important, and business leaders are looking for a greater correlation. They want to have a visibility and confidence the money that they are allocating, is it actually paying back, and that puzzle is being solved by technology platforms. With different sort of thing. So I would like to understand, maybe I can begin with Mr. Dharmarajan again. How do you look at this correlation between what you are spending on CX and what it is able to give you?
Sure. Here we use a lot of data and science, and we have evolved over a period of time. Any and every decision that we make, we ensure that we use the lens of value that it brings in. And we're highly outcome focused and not output focused. To start with, what we do is on benchmarking. For our size and scale of business, we have a very strong benchmarks on various aspects of spends on customer experience, what value that it brings in, and it could be in various parts of the business. In customer experience, if you want to break it into, say, we are an e-commerce players on the platform side. Platform side, we have investments which reduces friction, enhances conversion, improves search results, improves navigation and browsing. Each one has, we prepare a very detailed customer backwards business case. We call it as product notes, and each note will have 3 areas typically it covers. What is the impact in terms of customer experience? How will this particular product that you're building or buying is going to improve? What is the growth opportunity, which is how will you increase the revenue over a period of time? And the third one is the efficiency. With the investment that you're making, how will you reduce cost per transaction, cost per customer acquired, or any of those cost per shipment, etc. So depending on which part of the business that you're investing on improving customer experience, we have this sort of three-pronged metric-based approach, and every document that we prepare, it sort of starts with customer and works backward. What is the core problem you're trying to solve? And once you are clear with the problem, then you define really well what the business is, what problem that you're trying to address, and with the solution. And being a technology company, it is always build first and then going to buy. We evaluate what will it take for us to build it, and whether it makes sense for us to build it, what is the time it takes, what is the cost, and then we evaluate. And then we have a very strong retro mechanism, so that we have a mechanism to fail fast. If you have thought that you will bring in so much amount of value by adding a new product or a technology or a new feature, we go back and check if it is working and giving us the value that we expected, so that to decide whether to further invest in it, continue to provide the infrastructure required to run and manage. If the value is not derived, we quickly sort of pivot and move it out of that particular product. Right. And some of these slightly longer term decisions, when say if you have to implement a CRM solution, customer interfacing solution to enhance reach value, this is a slightly more long drawn process. Like how we selected our product is we went through a detailed multi-partner benchmarking study. We did multiple POCs, and in parallel there was a business case that is provided, which was shared. About this project we started about 8 months back, but the results were shared about 2 weeks earlier. So we look at every single metric. What is the cost of the solution? What is the improvement in AST, improvement in customer satisfaction scores, reduction in number of contacts to contact centers. So it's always predefined. be very clear in terms of what metric that you're trying to address, and have a both pre and post kind of metric assessment method, which tells us whether we are working in the right path.
Absolutely. Mr. Pawan, would you like to add your views on this correlation, visibility, and the role of digital?
Well, I believe Dharma has fully covered for all of us. We'll be more or less repeating as to what he has mentioned. Having said that, I think the amount of information today available of a customer as to from where is he coming, what device is he using, what time is he buying, what is his psychographic or the demographic information, all that is available. Accordingly, you cater and tailor the offerings which one has, and the result which comes out is it is amazing. We as a company spend more than 100 odd crores on digital spends, and we are laser sharp focused on the ROI here. So that is all I can add on Dharma.
Mr. Prasad, your views?
I think after going after Dharma and Pawan, it's difficult to add, but I'll put it in a different view. I think the experience economy is arrived. We used to have idea economy. That's where startup world used to come and build. Even now it's thriving. I think the experience economy is fully arrived thanks to pandemic. In the experience economy, the only way a business can differentiate, not by product or service, but by customer experience. Don't take my word for it. Just go back and reflect on how customers would want to do business. Now, today, they don't want to have, oh, is this product, am I getting 5 rupees, 10 rupees lesser or X% lesser? Or am I going to trust this brand and do the business with them? I think the shift has happened. Staying invested in CX will not only help you pre-pandemic, in the pandemic, even the post-pandemic, which I call uncertain world. In uncertain world, you want to make sure that you keep your investment in such a way that it's agile. All your decisions need to be agile because your things can change very quickly. But one thing which is a fun underlying phenomenon is differentiating with CX.
Right. Mr. Vishal, your views? Would you like to add something?
My view is very simple. There are tech companies trying to be there on the right hand side of, if we need to plot XY graph, on the x-axis, there are companies who are like extreme tech oriented. Technology comes first to their mind, and then the retail and the rest of the things. They're trying to become retailer. They're moving like this. And people who are retailers, they're trying to move towards the right. They're trying to do a lot of tech stuff. Okay. So things that comes naturally to tech companies, it's difficult for many stakeholders in traditional retailers. That why do you need this open source? Why do you need so many people? Blah 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 blah. So it takes it doesn't come naturally. So the build versus buy. So you will build certain things internally in retailers who've built their good technology capability, but primarily it is going to be a buy because they need to catch up. They need to move fast in the complex world. So in a lot of business case creation and all that, the good part of pandemic is that more and more people across the board in leadership team and even the board members, they're spending time to understand what it takes to get things done faster. So hence the decision making is basically is quite fast, but it's primarily it's going to be more around buy rather than build own.
Right.
That's my view, and ROIs gets defined more on the top line and CX perspective. That's how it is.
But Mr. Sandeep, I'll come to you. So what Vishal is saying is absolutely right. But we are also observing that, the expectation from technology leaders, especially from CTO and CIOs, are not only about, implementing technology, having the right set of tools in place for internal consumption, but there is also expectation of the business and the management to support the revenue growth, support a technological business ideas which can actually enable business to proliferate and possibly capture some new market, right? So your views?
See, yeah, so I agree with all the views shared so far, but to translate into the ROI, because any investments will be kind of approved on the basis of the ROI promised. So the front, we might be looking at investing in technologies to improve the CX. But what it will translate for business will purely be increase in the order size, increase in the order frequency, which is going to impact your top line and bottom line. That is the ultimate translation of a good consumer experience. That's what we see in offline, online, all kind of retails. You provide good experience, consumer will keep coming back, consumer will keep buying more. Now you can have various digital interventions to, upsell or cross sell to increase the basket size. And of course, because you have more information about consumers, so you can interact on more occasions with consumer, give him more reasons to buy. So ultimately, it will have any investments in digital marketing or digital platform will be justified by increase in order size and order frequency.
Right. Mr. Ankeet Bhat, your views on this correlation of between spending and the confidence that management should have, why actually it is being done. And one more thing from you, that the technology that you spoke about, I mean, that is able to provide the kind of data set a business would need to open a store, open a business. I mean, are we doing anything for SMBs also on that point? For a larger companies which is having a specific budget for IT, possibly they are able to afford that. But large set of businesses in the countries are SMBs. So as a technology platform, how do you look at ensuring that one of the best technology available in the world should be affordable, should be presented in such a model that people are able to buy, they are able to consume, either as a pay as you go on model or something like that?
Yeah, so I'll address two of the questions to the points that you put forward here. The first one is so since we are a direct part of the digital spend, and maps and location technologies will become very, very crucial for everyone in today's world. There are very, very core correlations between this technology, which is mapping, and and things around your bottom line, top line. So I'll talk about a few. One of the interesting ways what a map does is it provides you a verification source for like addresses. So what happens in e-commerce in cases is it reduces returns if you're using the location technology to confirm what address it is. So it directly saves money because you're not going, and that's one of the biggest problems in e-commerce, which we have been able to solve. So that's one thing, direct correlation of saving of money as you're using more and more maps. Another, like what Sandeep also pointed out very correctly, was that as you're providing that quicker, faster experience, the sales does increase. It does have an impact if you're using the technology to show, where the order is, or to predictably tell the time, to predictably make sure that you're delivering at the right time. All of that, the consumer experience does increase, and the consumer does come back loyally to buy more from you. Therefore, increase of revenue. And obviously, brand equity when you're trying to give, a very good experience to the consumer. So these are some direct, I would say, impacts. And also, if you're using from the offline perspective, if you're increasing offline and you're using this location data to plan where to put up a store, if you put it in the right place, it will result in, because you're going to that hyperlocal segment where those consumers are, it will result in large gains of sales. Therefore, it will increase your bottom line, top line, and therefore, hopefully your bottom line also, if your internal operations are the same. So this is kind of the first part of your question, and we've directly seen this impact even before the pandemic, through the pandemic, and going forward. The second part, very interesting question, close to my heart also. How do we build in the country and expand this usage of the technology of the country? So we have built very ubiquitous tools, simple tools that can be used by every SMB, and also at ways in which they can consume basis what their capacities are, and that only truly domestic Indian companies that are building this complex technology from scratch can make this technology available to everyone. That was kind of the vision, mission always, to build Atmanirbhar kind of technology source. And yes, these tools are all available, and we are finding ways of how to make it even more easily possible with their simple SaaS tools that someone just logs in, runs a bunch of questions, and then is able to know that, okay, I should open stores here, there, or wherever. So these tools are available, and I think that adoption will just keep on increasing as our economy increases. So
Absolutely. Mr. Dharmarajan, Mr. Pawan Gadia, Mr. KT Prasad, Mr. Vishal Kapil, Mr. Sandeep Jabbal, and Mr. Ankeet Bhat, thank you so much for being such a wonderful panelist, sharing your views on as to
Thanks a
how
lot.
we should be using digital platform for improving CX, and also the balance that we need to ensure between our physical store and digital presence. So once again, on behalf of ET Retail, thank you so much.
Thank you everyone for your inputs and for touching every possible angle of the topic. Time for the last panel discussion of the day. Stay tuned.